Welcome to the Numbers Game with your host, Miss Kim. And tonight's conversation is about generational wealth. I am so excited to dive in and have this conversation with you so that you can have, it's intended for you to think about where you are now, where you've been, where you are now, and where you're going moving forward. But before I do that, I do want to state my purpose for having this conversation. My purpose in life is to help others, and I have a passion to help others succeed. I believe that it doesn't make sense to be healthy and not gain wealth, just like it doesn't make sense to be wealthy and not have better health. And that's why this podcast exists. It's intended to have a better understanding about our health, mental and physically, and in certain cases, the numbers like your A1C numbers and blood pressures and things like that. And then it's also intended to kind of have that conversation about wealth, money, and wealth building and what that looks like for you. So feel free. You can always chat with me in the app as an audience member during the recording of this show. Now I've got all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and have this conversation. So, generational wealth. What does that mean to you? When you hear generational wealth, what do you think about? I'm gonna let that sit with you for a few seconds. I mean, is it the passing of something that you think about, the passing on of something that you think about, whether it's in terms of the word generational, a tradition in a sense, something that comes from an ancestral past that's integrated into your future, and maybe you're carrying that torch on into your legacy. What does generational wealth look like or mean to you? What understanding do you have of that? Now, I will say generational wealth is not a new concept. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. However, in our community, I can only speak for Black folk because that's what I am. I'm a Black folk. Within our community, it's trending. It's something that is starting to cause us, this is my perspective, to think and in some cases rethink how we're investing not only our money, but our time. And the way we eat, who we hang around, places we go, what we listen to, what we feed ourselves on a regular basis through audio or visual entertainment, and it's something that becomes a norm, for better lack of words, in our lives. We're creating this generational wealth. This buzz of things becomes a norm in our life. Well, for me, this is how I see generational wealth. It's an extension of financial support from one generation to the next. And that does not necessarily mean from me to my children. Believe it or not, those that don't have children can still pass on a legacy of generational wealth to a nonprofit organization or to another person just of their choosing. That is still very viable, a viable option. So it's an extension of financial support from one generation to the next. Now, let me ask the $1 million question that I'm sure a lot of us have our own answers to. But why do we not pursue it? Why do we not pursue generational wealth like we should? Let me rephrase that. How can we get out of our own way to pursue generational wealth? Now, let me tell you something. It's never too late to right or wrong. I believe that. It's never too late to right or wrong. It's never too late to say, God, I'm ready to change the course of action or certain behaviors or patterns in my life. It's never too late I'm picking up my phone and I didn't want the alarm to go off again, to say, God, help me. And my son would be calling me right now. I'm so sorry. Help me to refrain, help me to veer course, put me back on the journey. It's never too late to turn that corner. But why is it that we don't, when it comes to generational wealth, why don't we turn that corner? Not like we should, not consistently. Perhaps maybe our bills get in the way. I'm guilty of that. Queen Bill right here. Queen of the bills right in front of you. Okay. So these things I'm talking about are not from just hocus pocus coming out the air. This is from experience. But is it because we get so caught up in what's in front of us and those bills that we've accumulated over a period of time, and they just kind of weigh on us like a weight, just hold us down. I got to keep doing this job. I don't want to be on this job, but I got these bills, Or is it a combination of our responsibilities that causes us to feel like we have to be stuck in a certain situation or on a job or do things out of our norm that's not necessarily in an alignment with our purpose in life, nor does it fit our passion. I believe, and I'm going to say this 100 times over, probably till the day I die, because it's in the Word. It's true. I am a firm believer that God gave us life and for us to have it more abundantly, right? We're supposed to be able to have life, and experience the abundance of life. And I'm going to break that down and tie it into generational wealth here momentarily. My alarm is going to go off, so forgive me. I'm going to press the button here in less than 10 seconds. But looks like great, it went away. To have life, and you'll probably hear me say this throughout several podcasts or even in conversations or what have you, but to have life, God gives us our faculties. We wake up with the hands and the legs, and we could drink our coffee, tea, or water, or whatever our favorite morning beverage is, and we can go and have our mindset. And even if we have a disability or something that kind of prohibits us from having a full quality of life, we have life. If we have a quality of life, if we have life. The abundance piece, how I perceive that, I came to give you life and to have it more abundantly, requires work. 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 Meaning self-work. Working of oneself, being in that alignment space with God or higher being, or however you choose to worship, but just having that connection and having that relationship established and putting effort into that every single day is where I believe, when that verse speaks, and it speaks volumes to me, I believe that that's where God turns up and shows out in our life. those unexpected blessings and those, how did this happen? And you can't say anything else but God. That's when those things show up. So how does this correlate with generational wealth? I'll explain it. Let me break that down to you. Our generation, our Black folk community, once again, I can't speak about any other race because I've only been Black for almost 50 years of my life. So I can only speak of what I know and understand. But our community has done extremely well in certain areas, but there's areas of improvement where we're at a point where I think, Kimberly's perception once again, that it's time to tweak those not so great areas. And generational wealth is one of that. We don't teach it. We don't talk about it. We don't deal with it. We don't teach it. We don't talk about it. And we don't deal with it. And maybe we don't teach it because maybe we don't understand it fully ourselves. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's what I'm here for. And people like myself that are YouTube junkies and read and study, you can kind of get some advice from some financial professionals to kind of help you understand what wealth building looks like. And I am that person in case you too want to figure out how to create that portfolio or diversify your portfolio. I'm here to help you with that. But we don't teach it. We don't talk about it, meaning we don't have these frank conversations with our family members. Just bare bones. Let's sit down, family meeting mandatory. I have these conversations with my children. I've had conversations, and I'm going to consistently have conversations with my children. I don't keep, especially when it comes to my finances. They know mama. They know mama's budget. They know what I bring in. They know what I have and what I don't have. They have an idea of what kind of bills I have. They know because I share it. I talk about it with them. And we talk about wealth amongst ourselves, and we do that regularly. And it's not a one and done conversation. And then we don't deal with it. Meaning maybe there's been some infractions in our ancestral past, some past behaviors that are still in existence. Some past behaviors that are still in existence. And I'm talking those behavior patterns that long before you existed. But then it's become a carryover from one generation to the next because no one has stood up to deal with it. So you know what? I'm putting a stop to this. Or you know what? Let's pivot for a minute. I think we need to have these conversations. We need to be taught, and we also need to be talking about wealth. Mark my words, it's vitally important. I'm looking at the camera when I say this. It's vitally important that you're having these conversations with your family, whatever that makeup looks like, whether it's a biological family, extended family conversations, or friends and you consider your family members. You need to be having these conversations on a regular basis. Okay, you're saying why? I hear the questions. Why do we have to have this conversation? Well, number one, it kind of helps set a tone, right? When I have the conversations with my children, it sets a tone of importance, of seriousness about life, and not necessarily an expectation, but just when I'm talking with my children, it sets a tone of the sky is a limit. I've been saying this to my kids since South Carolina, our days of South Carolina. You can go be and do anything you want to do in the world. The sky is the limit. No dream is too big for you to accomplish. You can do anything you want because God has gifted you with that ability to do it. And I believe that about my children. So when I have these conversations about wealth and wealth building and breaking it down, I don't give it all to them at one time, but I'm breaking these conversations down with them. I've seen a shift within my own children's patterns and behaviors. Instead of them spending money recklessly, they think about it. Now, do they still spend money on stuff they shouldn't? We all do. Guilty? Yes, we all do. We all spend money frivolously in one shape, form, or fashion, whether it's $2, $20, or $200 million. We all spend, which I don't have. But at any rate, my point is we all spend money frivolously. We don't spend it like we should all the time. And we're human. That just happens. But the goal is for them to do that, still my brother's term, parenthetical pause, that pause before they put action to it. I've seen a shift with my children in their peer group. This is all about just talking about wealth building and what could be, what possibilities are out there, and removing our, don't look at our environment. Don't look at our current state of how we're living, where we're living, and what we have and what we don't. Just erase that. Pretend like it does. Pretend like that doesn't exist. Just say what it is that's on your heart. What are you passionate about? How does this feel? What makes you get up every morning, make you feel like, God, I'm so glad to be alive? What is that? And having these consistent conversations with my children has already started to birth, meaning law of attraction. You reap what you sow. Things are already starting to turn around for my family. It may not seem like it to some folk, and that's okay. It's not intended for you, but I see it because God shows me. He points it out. I made a decision within my own way and generation. And I applaud my ancestral past on both sides of my family, my mom and my dad's side of the family. They did an outstanding job raising me and my brother. We have no excuse why we can't achieve, succeed, or do anything in life. Because my parents, and parents before them have, between their blood, sweat, and tears and prayers, have done a bang-up job raising me and my brother. Absolutely no excuse. We were the Cosby kids without the money. My parents were not doctors and lawyers, but we, in a sense of having, when you watch the Cosby Show, we had that love and that care and the support and the motivation and encouragement, the empowerment, the drive for us to be whomever we wanted to be. And the rule that my dad will set out was, you can do anything you want to do, just be the best at it. Put your best foot forward with whatever that is. Generationally, I would like to believe that's something that didn't necessarily start with mom and dad. Generationally, I would like to believe that started with their parents, and then it started with their parents, and so forth and so on. So they've done an outstanding job to get me and my brother, to this point, right? So I'm saying within my own little bubble, in my own legacy, me and my three, okay, how can I move it from here to here? And then, but at the same time, ensure as we're moving the ball forward, that my legacy behind me, my three, they understand, okay, grandparents was here, mama was here, okay, now I got to take it here. It's got to continuously flow. One major important way to do that is to financially set your family up for success. And I'm not talking about hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, that type of financial success. Even if it's $100,000, or if it's $2.50, it's understanding what that number, going back to why we're talking today, the numbers game, what that number looks like for your legacy to continue. I already heard somebody say, I heard it. It dropped in my spirit. I heard you, sister, my brother. I heard you. What does that number look like for my legacy to continue? And you're probably saying, well, Miss Kim or Kim, that's impossible for me to come up with. No, not necessarily. So, I mean, the challenge is not for you to say, oh, well, the economy is going to be this, and this is going to happen here, and oh, we'll probably have a stock market crash, and another pandemic. No. Take where you are right now, today. I mean, pull that curtain back. Look at all your bank accounts and your investments and assets. Look at all your assets and liabilities. Literally line them up. Get a poster board. Right down the middle. Income, expenses. Write it out. Focus on that expense column, because when you die, guess who's got to carry that stuff on? It just don't poof disappear. The government don't work like that. No, the government don't work like that on purpose. The government does not work like that. Excuse me. So why not set something up, or strategically put something in place that will not only minimize or wipe out that expense column, but plus up that income column for your legacy. There are ways you too can do it. And it don't take a lot of money like you think that it takes. It takes one thing: time. Investment of your time. But just making the financial investment and allowing that time for it to mature. Like wine gets better with age, the right investments do too. I heard someone else say, you sure right. We'll take a little sip right quick. Now, before I get back to talking about generational wealth, y'all have got to know, if you didn't know this about your girl, I am goofy as I don't know what. I'm one of those no frills kind of gals. Very down to earth, and I'm just not. I don't get caught up in a lot of things. And believe it or not, I'm not a social butterfly. I'm putting that out there in the airways. You will learn. You will discover why sometimes I look like I don't want to be bothered, because I'm not a social butterfly. It kind of takes me a minute to kind of get warmed up to a crowd. And some of you that know me well are probably like, what? That's because I've known you and we've been through that phase or whatever. But others that are getting to know me understand it's not you. I'm just not a social butterfly. It's just me. But those things that in my life that God has impacted me with, and He's charged me to have conversations about, such as this one today, generational wealth. I cannot just sit back and let the hibernating bear be a hibernating bear. I've nicknamed myself that since COVID. Hibernating bear. I hibernate. And I love to do it. As long as it leave me with my technology, my TV, some food, and some water, I'm good. I'm gravy. trust and believe that. But I know that's not healthy. That's not my purpose. That's not God's purpose for my life. So I don't always live in that space. But when I get an opportunity to, oh boy, it's a lovely day for me. But okay, getting back to generational wealth. Generational wealth has to happen for you and your family. And I'm not saying yesterday, tomorrow. I'm saying right now. I like immediately. That's how important it is. And I say that because with the little bit of things that I've studied about wealth building and the mindset of having wealth and what that looks like, the world, and I've lived in places where I've seen it, and what I'm about to articulate to you, I've seen this in action for over long periods of time. But the world, this nation, let me back up, not the world, this nation is slowly going from, right now we have upper class, middle class, and poverty level. I don't like calling them lower class. It's degrading to me. I'm sorry. Let's just say poverty level. And upper class is your 1%ers and billionaires and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all of them. It used to be Kanye West. I don't know where he falls on the spectrum now, but that's a whole nother conversation. But at any rate, you got your upper middle and your lower. And what's happening in that middle class, because you do have an upper middle class, you also have a lower middle class. I said lower, I meant poverty level. I'm so sorry. But at any rate, in that middle class, what's happening, the upper and middle is slowly getting stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched and stretched in this nation. Daily, stretched and stretched and stretched. And then what's gonna happen is we're gonna get to the haves and the have-nots. Either you got it or you don't. First of all, where do you want to be, and where do you want your legacy to be? Haves and have-nots. Either you got it or you don't. I have lived in other countries and seen this firsthand, and it's not a pretty sight. Some of you have traveled on vacation or military or wherever, traveled to other places and seen it, and may not have recognized that that's what was happening to the population, to that particular population of people. But I've outside of the United States, I see it more prevalent outside of the United States, and I'm seeing it happen within the United States. And there's all kind of reasons why the middle class is being stretched beyond recognition, and almost to a point of extinction. I said that extinction on purpose. But it's happening. And if you don't put something in place to protect yourself and your legacy, then that generational wealth that you thought maybe you've been having all this time, or you don't have, or not sure how you have it, or whatever, when you pass on and your legacy is still trying to survive, they're going to be really trying to survive really, really hard. And it's going to be extremely hard for them to live. That's the real. That's the for real. That's the down and dirty about it. And once again, and wealth does not necessarily equate to millions and billions and trillions of dollars. To me, it doesn't. Wealth is just being able to extend, or generational wealth is extending that financial support from one generation to the next. There's a book that I challenge for you to read, and read it, and then text me, reach out to me, however, if you have my information or whatever, or leave a comment down below. But what would the Rockefellers do? Read that book and let's have a conversation about it. I also challenge you, if you have not watched, it's on Hulu, The Men Who Built America. And don't watch it from the lens or the purview of truly understanding, where maybe you're putting a pause, taking some notes, really dialed into watching that docuseries and understanding those storylines and how America was built. They set a tone, and a lot of our, I'm not going to dive into it in this conversation about the government and things of that nature, but a lot of the things that are happening to us was from the tone that was set back then. And take it for what it is. I mean, those two, that book and that documentary, that docuseries, check it out. Oh, one last docuseries to check out. 1619 Project. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's on Hulu too. Check that one out. Because it'll give you that disparaging difference between, how America got started and where we still are today as a community. And I kind of go back, I am going back to that question before. Why aren't we doing what we need to do to have generational wealth within our own families? Once again, it does not necessarily mean you're leaving it to children. And if you don't have children, well, then what's the point? And all that. Maybe you have a niece or nephew. Maybe there's a nonprofit organization you can contribute to. Maybe it's a church, which falls in the line of a nonprofit organization. Well, it's the extension of financial support from one generation to the next, ensuring that these things within our community can continuously and consistently exist. We don't do enough of that. We do not do enough of that. We do not do enough of that. And it's time out. It really is. It's time out. That's that abundance I talked about earlier. I came to give you life and to have it more abundantly. That's putting in the WORK, the work. Having the more abundant part. Putting in the work. Strategically putting financial support in place of liquidity and tax-free income accessible. That's what liquidity means for some folks. Accessible, so that you, if life happens, you got something that can bounce you back and keep you going, and not put you, as old folks would say, in the po house. Not the poor, but the po house. Or have you strapped out on the streets or strung out on something. Fill in the blank, whatever that addiction option is. And it doesn't necessarily have to be drugs, sex, and rock and roll for just because I wanted to say that phrase. But drugs and sex, it could be Bluebell ice cream, as my brother had said several times, said in his sermon. Whatever that addiction is, because you're going through to get through, right? And depression and anxiety has hit, and because your money is funny and you don't know how to make it from one end to the next. It's time out. It's time out for all of that. It really is. Aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? I am, or I was. I can say I'm course correcting. I'm putting strategic things in place for my children, so their legacies, the children after them, can have life and have it more abundantly. They can be born into options and opportunities, work from purpose and passion. Not because big mama, me, I gotta work because I got kids just to pay these bills. I got responsibilities, I gotta pay these bills. Now we can get up and go work and work from passion. See, when you work from passion, I'm gonna veer just for a hot second. When you work from passion, you can do it for free. That means you don't mind. It doesn't affect you mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. It's just your gifts will make room for you. It just, oh my God, it's a beautiful feeling when you can work from passion. It's like having life in no other shape, form, or fashion. Versus having life through depression, anxiety, fear, and doubt. Because the twins, the two sets of twins, fear and doubt, depression, anxiety, and the four of them get together and they clump on you, and then other stuff pile on top, and then, oh my God, here comes diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart problems, cancer, oh my God, it just continues. It's enough, people. It's enough. I'm tired. I know you're tired. Once again, this conversation was intended to make you think, make you have that parenthetical pause, even if it's just for a hot sec. And when you're viewing this, you'll be able to rewind and listen to some things, or fast forward to get to another point, or share, do whatever you wish to do with this conversation. But this conversation is definitely meant for somebody in terms of why we're having it today. And it's intended to make you think, make you course correct, do that paradigm shift, and get on the journey of building generational wealth. Having more assets and less liabilities. Or having the liabilities that you need to have, not those that you gotta have. That's deep. That's a whole nother conversation within itself. Having liabilities that you got to have versus the ones that you need to have. You don't have to live or exist in the environment that you're living and existing in right now. You don't. I will never leave you or forsake you. That's what God says. You don't. Well, Miss Kim, it's just so heavy. I got so much going on, and I'm starting to figure this adult thing out, or it's just too much, and this, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Queen of all of that. Been there, done that. Got 3 kids and t-shirts and combat boots to prove it. Yes, got you. But there is a such thing as doing more with less. Who says you gotta have fill in the blank? In a previous podcast with my son, Living Below Your Means, and how we talked about how he shared basically how he chose to live below his means when he moved to Houston. He moved to a Class A apartment, then he decided to move to a Class B apartment and live below his means in order to invest and purchase the home that he currently resides in right now, with an understanding that, okay, I'm in this Class B apartment to get from A to B. This is a temporary thing. It's not a permanent solution. Sometimes that generational wealth building stumbling block are your naysayers. I heard Sister McDonald say, paint the picture. You gotta come to my church to understand that. But sometimes the naysayers are in the way. Maybe you're the naysayer. My mama saying, ouch. I hear that in the back of my head. Maybe you're the naysayer. Well, I say to all naysayers, naysay no more. Naysay no more. meaning just it's enough. Tune it out, shift, turn it off. And if you're the naysayer of yourself, self-sabotage, if you are the naysayer of self, which is self-sabotage, then that just means you got to crank up a little bit more on the gratitude of life, being grateful about having life, and less about not what you don't have in life, what I don't got. That's what that means. And learning to accept where you are and be in the moment of where you are, but plan for where you're trying to go. Make a plan. When you don't have a plan, you're just planning to fail. Oh, and my fearful folks out there, my self-doubters. Okay. My self-doubters, yes, you can do it. Good morning, gorgeous. Mary J. Blige song. Yes, you can. Yes, you too can have whatever it is that you choose to have out of life. That conversation I had with my children back in South Carolina. The sky is the limit. Mama got your back is exactly what I told them. Mama's got your back. I'm going to ride or die with you on this. Now, the catch I told my children was you have to be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with God first, yourself, and you definitely got to be honest with me. Don't hold nothing back from me. You be honest. If I ask you about something, you tell me. Period, point blank, whether I want to hear it or not. Self-doubters. Shake that fear. You can do it. Let that anxiety go. Be anxious for nothing. But what if it works? What if it works? What if nothing is wrong? I didn't know how this conversation was going to go today about generational wealth. I just knew I had to have it. And it's been a long time coming to get to this conversation. I actually was going to show a PowerPoint and be all professional as a financial professional and coaching. God was like, no, somebody needs to hear it the way I want you to articulate it to the masses. And thus, here I am, being a vessel. You don't have to sit in the situation you're in. You don't have to live in the environment that you're in. It may seem bleak. It may seem impossible to shift, but it's not. All things are possible. All things are possible. That's one of my favorite scriptures. I'm gonna let those Bible thumpers finish the verse. Through Christ who strengthens me. That's right. All things are possible through Christ who strengthens me. Well, my time is nearing, and there's a couple of things I wanted to revisit in this conversation. And one of them is that my purpose in life is to help others, and I have a passion to help others to succeed. If you want to have a deeper conversation that's tailored towards you, your life, your future, in terms of generational wealth, let's talk. I'll make sure the link is there so you can have access to the calendar. Book a time so we can have that conversation. You'll have my full attention, and we can articulate about where you are and where you're trying to go. Or if you know somebody that you know needs to have that type of conversation, send them my way. I got you. The numbers game, a future podcasts will have different guests on, and some will just be me like it is today. I won't always sit in the same place. Sometimes I'll travel outside the Kempire. I meant to say that earlier. Welcome to the Kempire. A really good spiritual sister of mine coined that for me, and I've just taken it and ran with it. It works. But being in my Kempire, my mind is just it's just a lot of different things going in my head right now. But at any rate, you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I also believe that it doesn't make sense to be wealthy and not gain wealth. To be healthy and not gain wealth. It does not make sense to be healthy and not gain wealth. A deeper meaning in that. Just like it doesn't make sense to be wealthy and not have better health. There's a deeper meaning in that. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for being a part of the Kempire. I am your host, Miss Kim, with the Numbers Game. That's my time. Till next time. Hope you just enjoyed the last show. So be sure to hit that bell twice, 1, 2, so you can keep up with your girl. Oh, just look at me making a mess. And I got my fur buddy, King Solomon, with me. See you next time. Peace.